Hey everyone, Caleb with Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with an interesting video, one that I never thought I'd be making, but I saw a couple of the YouTubers, like Back from Burnout, Mel from Australia. I saw her doing something that made me think about this video, and it actually made me want to do it, and she was mentioning her bum inventory that she's had for a long time. She was mentioning how she is relisting them to make them sell, because she went to a thing with eBay, and they said that's one of the things that you can do is like end and then sell similar. So it's a new listing. Sorry for the noise right now, but I thought, hey, I do all these different videos on my mess ups as an antique bookseller. A lot of people mess up all the time, but I just like to mention my mess ups because I think it's really helpful for you guys. And these books that I'm going to show you today aren't necessarily mess ups, depending on how you think about it, but they are some books that are really interesting that I think are cool case studies. So these three books, again, sorry for the noise, these three books are my oldest inventory that I have on my eBay store. Some of these are ones that I bought like when I first started and just have not been able to sell, or it took me a little while to list them. So one of these books is this Mother's Guide Index. So this little book's right here, this thing I've had for quite a while. I'm going to tell you guys how long I've had them at the end of once I finish going through these, because I just think it's really, really funny how long I've had these. So this one is just a Mother's Guide Index. When I first bought it, I think I was trying to sell it for like 20 bucks, and I knocked it down to 15, and I have my eBay right here. And now I'm trying to sell it for like $8. Like, this is definitely far, far, far below what I try to sell my books for. But yeah, I just have it, and I don't like throwing away the books because, I mean, it's just another listing to have, so no harm in having it, right? And it's just something that I think is really funny, is I expected to have this much, and now I'm trying to sell it for less than half, and I'm trying to sell it for not even close to what I like to have as my minimum for when I'm buying new books for. And this book actually contributed to my reasoning for why I don't try to sell books for under $25. That's my new floor, because this is one of those books. All the books that I tried to sell that were like $20 and under, they just would not be selling. This is one of them, and it's just something that I've learned over the years. That is something that's really important and interesting. I'll mention all that more and talk about that more later on. So next book, it's called Canyon Passage. I've had this one just as long. I bought this one, I believe I bought it at a Friends of the Library sale. It actually has some like sticker residue from the library stuff that they had on it. This one got at Goodwill at the Bends. And then this final one is called Bread. I got this one at a Friends of the Library sale as well, I'm pretty sure. And this one, it's a cool little book. I honestly thought it'd be worth a lot when I bought it. I actually initially listed it for $50, and right now, let me just look at right now. Right now I'm trying to sell it for $20. This book that I thought was $50, and no one's bought it. And with that said, how long have I had these three books? Just guess, guys. Like, drop it in the comments. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. How long have I had these three books? Wait for it. 3, 2, 1. 4 years. 4 stinking years, guys. I've been hanging on to these same books, trying to sell these same books. That's how old the listings are. 4 years old. So let me just give you the exact numbers. So this Mother's Guide one, it's been on my eBay store for 1,441 days. That's couple days, and then both of these were 1,413 days. So that is a very, very long time, and I just thought that I'd go through why I think these things are like this, things that I think you guys should watch out for, all that sort of stuff. So first things first, so this Mother's Guide one, it actually is part of a set of books. So as you can see, it's volume 6. I actually did have this same set of books. I believe I've gone through like 2 or 3 of this set of books. And I've sold the whole sets, but I have not been able to sell just the Mother's Guide of this set. And this Mother's Guide, basically all these books in this set, they're a bunch of like children books or something like that. I think I can actually look up the other books in the series right here. I don't see it right now. Not going to bother you guys. But it's just the index to the particular set of books, and it basically is telling the parents, or in this case the mothers, a little bit about it. And it's just a guide on parenting, all these sorts of things, and it's just part of this whole set of books. And I thought it was a pretty neat book, and since I have sold the set, and I had sold the set, by then I actually had already sold one of them, I was like, oh yeah, just one book from this set, oh yeah, that'll totally sell. And I tried to sell it. No one's interested in it. No one's buying it. I think it's really interesting. Something that I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to end and sell similar, so I can like make it fresh again, because eBay does stop showing things once they are really old and once they stop getting a lot of traffic, and once they aren't selling, eBay will basically not give you any traffic at all. So I'm going to end and sell similar on that one just to try to get it gone. Probably going to sell it for $8. Might even ask for a little bit more than that. Might not. It really depends on what I feel like when I finally do it. Next book is Canyon Passage. I don't recall 100% what I tried to sell this for when I first did it, but I think it was around about $25 probably. But it's an ex-library book, as I mentioned. It's in great shape, all that sort of stuff. According to this, it's from a town called Forest Grove, which is south of me a bit. It's also south of Salem. It's a nice little area. I think it's south of Salem, too. I don't actually remember where Forest Grove is now. Now I feel dumb. Forgive me. Correct me if you guys remember where Forest Grove is. But it's a cool little book. I thought it'd be worth more when I bought it. I think I paid like 50 cents though, so no loss. This Mother's Guide one, that thing cost me like $1.09 or something like that, so no loss there. This final book, Bread, again, I think I paid $1, so no real loss. I definitely think I've made that money back over my eBay store over the years. But this one I think was my favorite of all these old books that I haven't been able to sell. But this one, I think it's pretty stinking old too. Yeah, 1923 is the copyright year, and it is the 13th print. What in the world? Oh, 13th through 16th printing, sorry. Sometimes they do that with some of these books. So as you guys can see, here's the copyright year at the top, and then it has here in really stinking fine print, not gonna make you guys read that, but it says 1st to 12th printing was July 1923, and then the 13th to 16th was August 1923. So they did stuff like that when they were reprinting these books, because it was just cheaper for them to print when they just would say ranges like that. But this book, I thought it was a really cool one when I bought it. I tried to sell it for $50. No one was interested. So I'll definitely be relisting this one. I might even ask $30 for this one, just because I think this book is pretty valuable. It is an early edition, however, it's not a first edition, but when I was listing it, it looked like there was a good amount of traffic for it. It looked like I'd be able to get a good sale on it. It looked like all these different things, but it didn't work out like that. So with all that said though, what is my advice for you guys from my own experience with these 3 books? So my advice for all of you guys is, if you guys have books that have been around for a little while, you should end and sell similar, you know? And if you guys can't sell it after a certain amount of time, maybe you want to just donate it. For me, I don't really care about all the different stuff. I can hang on to a book for a very long time because I don't really care. I like just hanging on to these things because, as I say in my other videos, I'm doing this business to save books from the dump. So, I mean, if I donate it, it's going to go to the dump. So, might as well hang on to it indefinitely, into perpetuity. Maybe Jesus can take it when he comes back, you know? So, that's something that I like to do with my books, though. I don't like donating them, but it is something that you guys might want to do. It's something that you guys might be interested in doing, all that sort of stuff. But it's really cool to think that I have had these books basically most of my time in this business. This one, for example, I think I bought this in my first month, and then it took me like forever and a half to actually list it, because after buying it, because I bought a ton of books when I first started, but after buying this one, I was like, oh, this one's not worth as much as all these other antique books, so I'm just gonna not list it, and then I eventually finally listed it. But it's funny that it still hasn't sold after all this time. And with that said, though, a quick aside. So these books are all, I've had them for about 4 years, just shy of 4 years actually. But it's really interesting about these 3 books. They're the only ones I've had that long. All my other books are like a year. I've had them like for a year-ish and less. Like, it's crazy to think that I actually have that much turnover. Like, I would say, judging off just this, like, I would say I sell probably 80% of my books every single year, like within not too long of me listing them. I just think that's a really interesting factor to keep in mind for my business. It's like, oh, I knew that I knew that I held on to a few of these books for a long time, but I didn't think that it was only this long, or I thought that it was longer and it was only this long. It's really nice to, like, for me, I have actually started writing down the date on when I listed these books. Sometimes even when I buy these books, I write it down so I know how old my inventory is, because it's really interesting to gauge how my sales are, what works well for me. So something that I think is really interesting is, for me, like, I'm going to say like 1920, like maybe 1930 to 1970. The fiction books that I buy from that little window of time, I end up hanging on to them for a very long time. They're not worth a whole lot. a lot of the time. Like, there are, of course, exceptions to that rule. These two are not exceptions to that rule. I've held on to them for a very long time. But a lot of the books that I get from that little window of time, it's really interesting because I buy them, I try to sell them for a certain price, and I just keep on dropping it until it finally sells, and it's normally like for probably 30% less than what I expected when I bought it. And that actually makes me not want to buy a lot of these books. I've actually stopped buying a lot of the fiction books from that window of time because they just haven't done very well for me. It's very interesting. That's not to say that I don't buy any books from that time that are fiction, though, because there are some that I know do very well. It's very interesting. It's very convoluted, but I just thought it was really interesting to see after looking at all my stuff, because like I've always been aware of how long I've had some of these books. Like, guys, Stinginess Mother's Index one. So like you see how much bigger it is than the other ones. So because of that, I've had it like floating around at all these different spots, being like, oh, maybe I'll put it here now, maybe I'll put it here now, because it's just like in the way at this point because I've had it for so long. But it's funny, like because I'm always moving it, this one I think's been like the biggest thorn in my side, because it's like I know how long I've had this guy. Ugh. And it's just really funny to think, though, because it's always a reminder of this is why I don't sell this kind of book. This is why I don't do this. This is why I don't do this. Like, remember how I said this book here is one of the reasons, one of the big reasons, actually, of why I put in my rule for why I don't sell books for under 25. Like, this one, I actually, when I made my video on why I don't sell them for under 15, this one was a big one that I was thinking about the entire time, but I know I just mentioned 25 and 15. 15 is like the absolute bottom floor. I will not buy something under 15 for a resale now, because like if I can only get $15 for selling it, it's not worth my time whatsoever. 25, it's a floor that I don't like going to, but I'll go there if I absolutely have to. So like there are some Friends Library sales or estate sales that I'll drive miles and miles for, hours and hours for, and I'll get there and sometimes there's nothing worth it for me. Like it's like, oh, this book here is worth $10, this one's worth 10, this one's worth 25. And like if it's the only thing that I can find in that area, sometimes I do go down to my 25 level. But as I've mentioned in other previous videos, I've actually moved my floor of what I like to hit up to $40 or $45 now, just because I don't want to have a huge inventory, all these different things, and it's just sort of something that I'm pivoting into. It's definitely not a hard rule. As I mentioned, I do go down to 25 sometimes now. I try not to, but like when there's extremes, such as I go to a Friends Library sale and they all are fart nuggets and they're not trying to sell anything good and all their books are ex-library and turd, sometimes I will accept the $25 thing because it's just not worth my time otherwise to even drive all the way out there. And it's like a total loss, as opposed to if I pick up a couple of things, then it'll at least pay for gas, you know? So I just thought that was really interesting stuff, though, about these books. Honestly, guys, I'm probably going to keep you updated on these 3 books because I just think they're really interesting, and it's funny how I haven't sold them. Again, my favorite book out of all these is this one, Bread. It's also the oldest of these 3. I think this one's 1960-something, and this one, Mother's, is 1950, so this one being 1926 or whatever, is the oldest. And in addition to that, I really hope it comes through. But, I mean, I love the cover art on it, so I'm just going to show you guys a little bit. I'm hoping that came through, but it's like this pretty artistic... It's like you got some wheat on the sides and then you got like this weird spindle sort of thing with an arrow going through. I really am curious about it. Honestly, it makes me sort of want to read the book to figure out what it is, but that's a long book, so it's probably not worth my time. Actually, how many pages is that? Wow, it's like 500 pages. That's a pretty long book, so... With all that said, though, guys, I hope that really inspires you to either look up how old some of your books are or to like start keeping track of that. And in addition to that, so for me, I've mentioned in other videos, I write sticky notes and I have all the information I need about these books on these sticky notes, and I'll just put it on the cover of the books. I try to only use these like yellow sticky notes, like the actual name brand ones, or I use Office Depot ones also. These ones don't say Office Depot, but they do now, I think. But I like to use these because they don't bleed color whatsoever. I'm trying to remember. So there are like little yellow strip ones that people use for like bookmarks now. Those, and it's like a really fluorescent yellow. Those bleed color. Blue ones bleed color. Pink. All the colors bleed yellow, except for like the faded, matted yellow color ones of like the traditional sticky note. So that's something that you should keep in mind for your book businesses. For me, I use these because, as I said before, they don't bleed. The sticky noteness, it's not like really acidic. sticky part of it, you have to watch out for the acidity in that, or else it'll damage your book. So for sticky notes, the ones that I use, they don't seem to be an issue for that. And I like to use the sticky notes because it makes it so it doesn't fall off when it gets moved around. Like if I just did sheets of paper, it could fall out. So that's just a pro tip right there. And I know that this video probably wasn't the most exciting one out there for you guys. I'm sorry, it was probably a little bit boring, but I just think that it's a really interesting sort of maybe high level thing that you guys might want to keep in mind is how long are you holding on to these books and what lessons can you learn from these books? So for me, as I said, this one changed what price I do for my books. This one here changed why I don't really buy fiction books. And these are all lessons that I'm learning, and not just fiction books, but like fiction books from this sort of era. Whereas this one, bread, I'm still hung up on it. It's like, I don't know why this bread one is not selling. And I feel like a large reason for it is maybe I just need to end and relist it. And as soon as I relist it, maybe it's finally going to get its day in the sun, because this one, there's no reason why it shouldn't sell as far as I can tell. Like, the only reason, as I mentioned earlier, is it's not a first edition. It's between a 13th and 16th edition, which is something. And then it also has some writing, and then it has a little peeling right here on the spine. Not the spine, but like the text block, and that spine is sort of cracking. It's like, those are the only issues really with the book, and that's sort of what you expect from books from the 1920s. So it's just like, I don't understand the lesson to be learned on this one. And honestly, guys, if you have seen this book before and you know why it's not selling, I'd be really interested in it. Like, I just think it's a really cool case study, and honestly, guys, I'm looking forward to the day that this one finally sells and I finally learn more about it. But with all that said, I hope this video wasn't too boring. If it wasn't, be sure to subscribe. I have lots of more exciting videos here. Like, trust me, it's not always boring stuff. It's not always me talking about dumb books that don't sell. There's a lot of cool things I mentioned as well, so I hope that helps. Hope to see you guys in those, and I'll see you in the next video.